Africans have been through a lot in their history, from the slave trade that dehumanized them to the colonization of their various countries. Black people live on an island continent. This means that they have always been exposed to different cultures, which makes it hard for them to identify with one country. In order to enslave a group of people, you have to strip them of any meaningful identity and devalue their humanity, and for people of African descent, historically this has been true. The perpetuated lies told by European and Arab writers involve ideas about how Africans have made no contributions to world culture and have no forms of respectable civilization. Often, the information about Africa in the mainstream media, public discussions and social media is partial, misleading, or just plain wrong. Fortunately, today, scholars are starting to expose these lies and put things into a more proper historical perspective. We want to expose 7 of some of these lies which have long been spread about the African continent. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. To all my returning subscribers, thanks for turning back in. And if you are new to this channel, you are welcome to Lifestyle with Jerry, and please be sure to hit that subscribe button to be the first to be notified each time I post a new video. The most common answer to the question, why was Africa called the Dark Continent, is that Europe did not know much about Africa until the 19th century, but that answer is misleading and disingenuous. Europeans had known quite a lot about Africa for at least 2,000 years, but because of powerful imperial impulses, European leaders began purposefully ignoring earlier sources of information. At the same time, the campaign against slavery and for missionary work in Africa actually intensified Europeans' racial ideas about African people in the 1800s. They called Africa the Dark Continent because of the mysteries and the savagery they expected to find in the interior. The truth is that Africa has a rich history which has existed for years. Whenever Africa comes up in popular culture, it is usually in forms of slavery, animals, or starving children. The idea that Africa had its own glorious civilizations is seldom explored. The truth is some of the first recognizable civilizations on the planet began in Africa. Africa had many kingdoms, large empires and capitals that can stand on their own. Many people falsely assume that Africa was primitive before European colonial invasion. They believe the fallacy that it was a place of no cities, empires, commerce, and in other words, no civilization. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. Africa has a rich and in-depth pre-colonial history of magnificent and unspoken wealthy and developed empires and kingdoms. In the 12th century, the Mali Empire was larger than Western Europe and regarded as one of the wealthiest states in the world. While there is poverty in Africa, there is also a lot of wealth. Countries like South Africa and Nigeria are wealthier than some European countries, for example. Also important, most of the poverty in Africa can be traced to years of colonialism and exploitation by outsiders. Africa has a long history of wealthy, advanced civilizations. In reality, Africa is not poor, but its people are being kept in poverty by a combination of inequitable policies, huge disparities in power, and criminal activities perpetuated and sustained by wealthy elites, both inside and outside of the continent. Africa receives billions of dollars in aid from other countries. But it also has billions stolen every year. We need to ask why then, despite years of this generosity in quotes, is the end of global poverty still nowhere in sight? Rather than tackling poverty, this false narrative has instead helped to reinforce paternalistic notions of Africa as a poor and corrupt continent, with helpless people in need of intervention from wealthy countries. The narrative ignores the fact that the rich aid givers are in fact taking more than they give. Nearly all developing countries have to deal with corruption, but they're not the only ones. The United States, for instance, is also extremely corrupt as well as depraved. And African corruption is also largely a result of colonialism. European powers install corrupt leaders who make sure outside hands can continue to rob Africa of its bountiful resources. And many countries have debts from independence that are nearly impossible to pay off without bribery and kickbacks. Among the many misconceptions, one of the most common is that all African people live in grass-thatched huts made of mud and dung. Like other aspects of the culture of Africa, the architecture of Africa is exceptionally diverse. Throughout the history of Africa, Africans have developed their own local architectural traditions. It is true that mud huts are one of the most common forms of housing in rural areas on the continent. However, it would not be fair for us to disregard the continent's rapidly growing cities and urban centers with state-of-the-art architecture. A simple Google search on any city or town within the continent will illustrate conspicuous skyscrapers enhancing the landscape. The importance of oral culture and tradition in Africa and the recent dominance of European languages through colonialism, among other factors, has led to the misconception that the languages of Africa either have no written form or have been put to writing only very recently. However, Africa has the world's oldest and largest collection of ancient writing systems. The evidence dates to prehistoric times and can be found in multiple regions of the continent. I believe the African continent can be a self-sufficient continent with its own culture and heritage. Africa is no longer an uninvited guest in the world. We are vibrant and proud, and we have every reason to be. The people of our continent are proud of who we are, what we do, and who we aspire to be. The African continent is full of history, culture, and development. Despite the many challenges it has faced due to colonialism and ignorance, Africa has seen some incredible leaps in terms of economic growth and human development. There are good people from every country in Africa, working hard in their own little efforts to change the narrative. Our history is beautiful and it is glorious. And I believe a knowledge of this will save you and I from this identity crisis. Join me in this journey by subscribing to my YouTube channel by clicking on the red subscribe button below. Also, if you haven't yet, don't forget to press the like button below this video because it helps spread this message further than you think. I pray that this video has met you well. God bless you and I love you. Ciao.